Hi everyone, this morning we're off fishing again. It's Sunday. It's a day off we didn't know we had off actually, so sort of one of those last minute things. So yesterday I managed to find an open match. We're going to a little place called Summer Haze. Should be interesting. Not been there for quite a few years. I'm not too sure what the depths are and that. I can't really remember. Anything between sort of 3.5 and 5.5 foot, I think. So I've tried to do sort of as much prep as I can to save myself a bit of time on the bank. Like I've pre-soaked me micros, I've mixed me ground bait already, little things like that to help myself while setting up, so I don't know how much time we're going to have. Anyway, a bit of a last minute one. Summer Haze, not been there for a while. I think they've been getting in the region of sort of 20 there. That's what I'm hoping for today. So let's see how we get on. Let's hope we're bung-o.
So, peg 7, summer haze. Going to start across. I do like starting across here. I used to come down here quite a few years back now and had a pretty good record down here, catching mainly across on little pellets. The fish were a lot smaller then. Um, they've grown a little bit now. They were all sort of pound to sort of £2 was a good fish. Um, but it was really nice fishing, just cab potting a few pellets and that. But it's changed a little bit now. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit wiser. The water's a little low. I've noticed that. Looking at the banks and things, I can see it's quite low. Um, and where we're fishing across, because we're in a corner, we've actually got a corner of an island, which would be okay. It's always worth a few fish, I think. Anyway, once you can sort of sort it out. But it is. I would have preferred a sort of flat bit of mud bank in front of me, if you know what I mean, rather than sort of the corner of an island. Um, But you can see we're just shipping out there. It's a full 16 metres, and we took our time shipping out. There's no rush, especially when you've got a cab pot and a few hard pellets in your cab pot. You dunk your cab pot in the water, make them wet to keep them in there as you're shipping out, but you still want to go nice and careful. Same as lifted into that bite there, and you see how slight that lift was. Everything just nice and steady. There's never a rush. So it's nice to be back here. Sorry about the drone in the motorway. You can see over above the trees there, the old car zooming by there. So we've got our first fish on 4mm pellets. And we were talking about the size, what size of the fish used to be, and this one's more or less the same, to be honest. The first one, it's quite a small one. And you can see I've had the double ship there as well. I've got a fence behind me, and so we're going to get so much po behind us on our rollers, and then I've sort of taken the 2+2, I think I sort of take off. So we're still on 4mm pellets. It was slow, to be honest. It's a 6-hour match. We started at 6 o'clock. The draw was at 8:30, so I had plenty of time to set up, really, hour and a half. We're fishing till 4, and I thought I'll give myself the first hour to try and sort it across and then fish a sort of 5-hour match. I've got a line down to me right and a line 2+2 on meat, and I've sort of planned to plumb somewhere near the lilies if I have to. It's a bit of a sort of, yeah, it's a bit of a sort of break glass in case of emergencies, isn't it? And going anywhere near those lilies, because just one look at them and I'm thinking they're just going to be straight in there. That's pole breaking material, that is. So that is really, yeah, if all else fails. So fishing ground bait micros 50-50 across, and a little piece of meat on the hook is what I've ended up catching with. It hasn't been fast, but we are putting the odd fish together across, so not all bad. I'm looking around and no one's running away with it. Odd fish are being caught, but it looks to be fishing fairly slow for everybody at the start. And they've surprised me how much they're fighting. They're going, these little fish are going absolutely nuts. I've lost a couple as well, to be honest. One snap, I've got the odd sort of root and that across, and some of them's just gone straight in there. So not the ideal start. It's very lush down here, isn't it? You can see how green it is. It's we just sat down here. It is quite lovely. Slightly better fish there. It's certainly grown a little bit. It's £4 that was. So again, just a little lift. Just nice and steady shipping back. Got our usual grey hydro, 014, size 20, LWG across. Little 0.1 float. Actually, no, I haven't. I beg your pardon. I started with a point .1 with the pellets, but no, we've gone the meat and we're fishing a point .4. It's got 5 number 8s, I think, just above a 4-inch hook length. And there you go. It's not all going our way. So yeah, we had one fish in the first hour, and I think the second hour, once we sorted how to feed and to use a heavier float with different baits across, and just sit and wait, and you just sort of ignore those odd liners and fish coming in, and eventually it would go. It would go under, and you get a proper bite. So we went from sort of fours over fours, fours over micros, and then sort of expander or maggots over micros. All no good. Meat over micros as well, and it wasn't really very good. Definitely the ground bait brought the fish in and got their heads down a little bit. Perhaps it being a little bit lower, perhaps it just coloured the water up that little bit as well, and they just liked it. I mean, it does look like it's got a bit of colour to it, the water, but yeah, perhaps it just coloured it up that little bit more. But it certainly seemed to make them get their heads down a little bit. Not fast by any means, but certainly better than the first hour. I think in this second hour across we got about another 6, possibly 7 fish. And then it slowed. So as you can see, we're on to our short meat line. So I sort of thought £100 today, to be honest, would be quite good. I thought with the fish sort of averaging between £2 and £4. There is sort of odd 8s and 9s, I've been told. So I thought that's going to be like, 30 carp, let's say 30 carp. It's quite sensible, isn't it, really, I thought. But quite a few fish I've had have been a bit smaller than I expected. So we got one on the 2+2, which is brilliant. Just meat over meat, as always. Fishing slightly more robust on that. Fishing a 016 hook length from 16 B911, as we always do. And that's the first fish we've hooked on that. And again, it's giving a good account of itself, isn't it? I think we got 18 fishing down here today, which isn't a bad little knock up, I was sort of looking for something last minute, as we said earlier. And I think they were telling me the week before they had 25. So nice little fallback venue, if there's nothing else on, sort of thing. Somewhere I can always pop down to, like to get down there a little bit more. Interesting little fishery. So we had the one carp, and then we're into a skimmer. Not the best of signs, is it? But they weigh, it's a weigher. And from what I've heard, the silver weight's been quite low, so certainly worth getting a few of those in the net if there's a few there. So now we're going to go back across again. That meat line sort of fizzled out. I had one carp, one skimmer on it, and it sort of went quite quickly. So the plan is keep feeding the meat, go across, try and nab one across where we've rested it, and then maybe come back on the meat and nab one there and sort of rotate between the two lines. If we can get 2 lines, same as I always say with any of these commercial fisheries, if you can get 2 lines going, then that's brilliant. You can just tick along, especially in these sort of middle hours. It's always the hardest part of the match, isn't it? You just want to try and tick along, and then hopefully getting down those edges or something in the last couple of hours, as we always say. But my edges aren't great. I sort of wish I'd got in and cleared them out, really. I can't get into the bank, so I am concerned with fish getting in behind the float and a bit of lining and such. But from what I can see, most people's are overgrown the same, so pretty much an even playing field, really. Apart from on my left, the bank has sort of collapsed in over the years there, and what was it, the sort of little hedge you can see there on my right, that is sort of gone, is sort of almost at a 45-degree angle along to my left, where it's sort of caved in. So we won't be trying to get in down that left hand edge, especially between that edge and the lilies as well. I mean, I may have to, but I'm certainly not looking to unless I absolutely have to. So we've had a fish on the island. We've gone back to the 2+2, and it's just a small skimmer. A little bit disappointing that. I was sort of hoping another carp would be there, or at least a quality skimmer, but that's not happened. And we've got a nice little breeze blowing into us now. It's blowing a lot of scum in though, and I'm a bit concerned now that some of the rigs might be a little bit light later if this scum keeps coming in. Especially down my right hand side, very short down my right hand side. I've plumbed up, you'll see later, but it's sort of like a half a top kit really, but it's the only place I could get tight enough, and even then I'm nowhere really near being into the bank, not where I'd like to be. But we're going to persevere with this meat line for a little bit. I can see an odd small blow coming up on that meat line, but it does seem to be these skimmers. That one's slightly better, so we don't mind that. Yeah, we've got one or two skimmers there now, so I mean, I've cut out a bit of time obviously, but whilst catching these skimmers, it's given me it's letting me tick over and giving me a little bit of thinking time as to what we're going to do. And what I ended up thinking is, right, let's do another 2+2 line, but between me and those lilies. And the first fish I've hooked is a carp. Surprise, surprise. And where's he ended up? To be honest, the float went under. I didn't even strike the float. By the time the float went under, he was in the lilies, and you know, it was good 2.5 meters away from the lilies. He went under and straight in there. He knew exactly where he was going. But we've had to pull for a break. And we lost a lot. So I won't be doing that again. So as you can see, we've just tried down the right hand side now, and you can see how short that is. I mean, so you can see how low the water is as well, the way I'm pointing that top kit down there. But yeah, it's not very far away from us at all. And it's just a little bit too deep. I've probably got 22 inches there. I mean, I'd liked it sort of 16 inches, 18 inches really. 16 inches have been better, but I've got about 22 inches, I'd say. And as I say, most importantly, we're not into the bank. If you can't get into the bank, the problem is then is those fish can get behind the float, especially when you're feeding a little bit of ground bait, micros and that sort of thing. And I feel fishing so close to myself, I will have to feed that to get fish to come in there. Especially the way it was across. The only way we could really get those fish to come in and get their heads down at all was with ground bait, and that was 16 meters away. This is half a section away, so on that basis, that's sort of where I base my thinking on the feeding. So we've had a sign there then, and we've decided we're not going to go that 2+2 towards the lilies. So as you can see, I've come back to a top kit and a short 4 with the meat now. And I'm hoping that if they want to eat, they'll come out the lilies because there is fish around there. There've been fish moving around there all day, and I'm hoping they're going to come to us. Yeah, and we got one that short. That's brilliant. I've tightened this elastic right down now, and I've gone from 016 to 018. Even though the fish are small, I'm going to have to pull a bit to make sure they don't go in those lilies. I've got the same elastic and same line down the right hand side, but I've not tightened the elastic down the same because I got a little bit more room to play them down there. I'm not too worried about that. So I just want to try and get those two lines going now. Really, I figure I'm behind quite a few people now, or I'm feeling like I am. Um, so it's just head down now, and I'm trying to play catch up. But it's not frantic, but there's no lack of fish, is there? The only thing being is I am losing quite a few. I'm not showing you all of that, but there is one or two that are just either getting under the pallet to the right hand side. I've had a couple just sneak straight underneath the pallet, or they run down that inside and catch a root or a bramble or something. Um, and the ones to the left, I've pulled out of a couple just where I'm having to pull so hard. Really, it's certainly not a pretty match. It's not the way I like to fish, if I'm honest. I do like matches that are nice and tidy, and but yeah, it's a little bit of smash bang wallop. It's just one of those. Sometimes it's like that. You just have to adapt, don't you? Still small fish, but my I think I'd do better with the bigger ones that wallow a bit. These small things are going absolutely mad. You see, small but feisty. We're catching, but I never feel like we're really setting the world alight. Like I say, we're just losing a few too many for my liking, and it's just not clean, is it? But we are gradually mounting a weight, so we just all you can do just keep your head down. I'm not going to change anything. I can't get into the bank now, so it is what it is. Just gonna. And that didn't take very long, did it? After feeding, so certainly coming into that time of day now. I made a bit of a faux pas down that right hand edge, to be absolutely honest. I was I was fishing maggots, grain bait, and micros and such, and getting some cute little bites like you do on the maggot. I'm sure you all know what it's like if you fish maggot down the edges. Sometimes because they're sucking in those maggots, they have to suck so little for those little dead maggots that some of the bites can end up being quite cute. And I slipped up, but it's only in the last sort of half an hour of the match I turned around and thought, well, I'll try a little piece of meat. And I tried a piece of meat, and that never quite felt right. So I put the float down and actually put the meat in there about an inch off the bottom. Um, and all of a sudden, the bites become a lot more positive, a lot cleaner. Yeah, and it all made a bit more sense. I think I missed a trick a little bit there. Still feeding that meat line. We're not, we haven't ignored our second line. You can see how quickly I'm having to push that pole out sometimes where they are just. And this one's off under the pallet, I think. We're all faced with these sort of situations sometimes, these very awkward pegs, and just the way it is, and what you got to do to try and get bites, and you have to get into those snaggy areas, don't you? And it's no good pulling your hair out about it and getting irate about it. It's just one of those. You just got to get your head down, get your head around it, and think, okay, let's just do what we can out of the peg, and that's it. Little breeze blowing in towards me again. It didn't last really. It dropped away, didn't it? And then it sort of look. You spotted those lilies. Look how far they really pull. They really do. But yeah, it's a shame. I'd like that little breeze to keep coming in. It would have been lovely. I'm stunned, really, to be honest. Come sort of heading towards the dying throes of the match. So I hadn't broke a top kit really. I've had to pull so hard on some of these fish, and it's fairly heavy kit. I mean, it's not stupid heavy, but I'm not fishing power kits. I'm only fishing interelastics off my dio, and I was surprised at just how much I've given them at times. Especially when they headed towards those lilies or tried to get under the pallet, it's I've given full welly, and yeah, I hadn't broke one. Testament to the quality of Daiwa there, I think. So just coming into the last rows of the match. Do stay tuned for the results, and I'll speak to you all again soon.